Hey people, CzarThwomp here, and welcome to episode 56 of Dual Destinies. Last time, we proved that means killed court, and now we're beginning the next case, the Cosmic Turnabout. So without further ado, let's go.
But this one is different.
Sorry to bother you. Oh, sorry, forgot it was Juniper for a second. For a second, I thought it was the defendant. Sorry, just get out of it a little.
Are you alright, Apollo?
Ugh! Was that like a scary face just now?
Yes, you look... Why do you have that bandage over your eye?
Look, it's a long story, but it involves cleaning the office's toilets and the fact that my only health insurance is an orange peel from Mr. Wright's trash can. Oh, hi, Juniper. Yes, I'm fine. I was just doing my course of steel exercises. Now I'm all ready to go.
Yes, knowing you, I'm sure you will be just fine. Oh, I brought you a present from my garden.
Is this a lotus root?
That's right. My grandma says lotus root is good for your eyes. She even says that if you look through the holes, it can help you see into the future.
Okay, in that case, I'll take a look. Actually, no, never mind. I know what my future is, Juniper, and you know what my future is? Suffering! Because that's what every day is for me.
It's for good luck. Maybe later you can cook then.
Thanks for this. I'm gonna have some right now.
Oh my.
Kinda tough, though.
You can't eat it raw, but thank you for the enthusiastic try.
Oops, if she didn't think me weird before, she will now. I've gotta calm down.
Apollo! I'm sorry I'm late. Why the hell are you weeding out Junie?
Hi, Athena.
Junie, I didn't know you were coming today. Did you come to cheer Apollo on? Oh, are you, you sly little thing, you? Well, joke's on you, Junie, because I'm gonna third wheel it.
Athena, stop.
Quit kidding around, Athena. The trial's about to start any second. Is everything all set?
Oh, Apollo, when will you ever figure it out?
Figure out what? Wow, that was the longest sigh I've ever heard. This is it. It's all over for me. They're going to find me guilty. This is our client, one Mr. Solomon Saul Starbuck. He's a very famous astronaut who happens to be an acquaintance of mine. You wouldn't know it right now, but he's usually a very upbeat and driven person. The scene of the crime this time happened to be the Cosmos Space Center. Back in high school, my best friend and I went there almost a little too much.
And yeah, though, speaking of Apollo's high school years, I actually do have a bit of a headcanon in which I can't help but imagine that Kristoff hired Apollo as an intern during his high school years because Kristoff wanted to one-up Phoenix, basically. Phoenix is taking on high-profile cases. Kristoff has to take on high-profile cases. Phoenix gets an assistant. Kristoff gets an assistant, and so Kristoff decided to sell for Apollo, and Apollo having to work weekends at Kristoff's law firm, and then basically Kristoff, Mr. Justice, I heard that you were at the Space Center. What? Am I not good enough for you, Apollo? I thought I was your friend. I thought I was the cool boss.
But that's where we met Mr. Starbuck!
And then Kristoff, seriously? This is who you're hanging out with instead of me? Apollo, you disappoint me so. I could easily take this man down. I could take him down without even batting an eye.
We'd ask about space travel and he'd launch into story after story with so much passion. Back in those days, the man was 100% my hero. And best yet, unlike Mr. Wright, he never tried to destroy my career!
Are you okay? Are you sure you're okay with being my lawyer, Apollo?
That depends, Mr. Starbuck. Do you have any bloody playing cards underneath that spacesuit?
What are you talking about?
I'm sorry, it's an instinct! It's what I have to ask every one of my heroes when they end up in the defendant's seat! Of course I'm sure. I know you, Mr. Starbuck. I know you're not the type to commit murder.
Thanks, but... Yeah, though when it comes to Saul Starbuck, just in the Ace Attorney fandom, he's often known as just Space Larry, because basically he looks similar to Larry, and he's more or less Larry, but with, well, instead of being obsessed with girls, he's obsessed with space. I was supposed to be in space right about now.
He's so depressed it almost seems like an act. The launch and call off must have been a huge shock.
I'll probably never get the chance to go into space again.
Don't say that! Don't stop believing! Besides, you just have to go into space again!
Yeah, I don't think I could face Clay in the afterlife if I just rotted away in a cell. But I'm confused, Mr. Starbuck. Isn't Clay used to disappointment? After all, he isn't friends with Apollo. Oh my god, sorry, I almost forgot to read the line. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command, unlike Clay Turan, I can't believe he was murdered. I mean, he was such a promising astronaut under your command, and unlike Apollo, he was so put together. I mean, look at him and look at Apollo. It's like night and day. Yeah, he was a good guy, always there to pick me up when I was down. Whenever I was sad, he would always tell me, Saul, at least you're not Apollo. Yeah, that training exercise may have gone south, but at least you're not having to babysit Trucy. No one loved life as much as him, that's for sure. He was always so full of energy telling me, you're fine, Mr. Starbuck, at least we're not Apollo. Yeah, seriously, I can just imagine Clay, basically, just the reason why he was able to stay so upbeat, basically. He would look at everything Apollo's dealing with the Right Anything Agency, and he would be saying to himself, hey, my struggles, they're small potatoes compared to what Apollo's dealing with. He's a subordinate to a potted plant. How could something like this happen to a guy like him, huh? Well, simply put, it is the Apollo curse, where basically characters are created and inserted into Apollo's backstory just so that way he can be devastated in the worst way possible. Clay's gone and I'm going to prison. I wish I could burn up like a shooting star right about now.
Mr. Starbuck, you'll be fine!
Ah! Well, what is it? What's with the yelling?
I'll get to the bottom of this today, you'll see! And in exchange, I want you to go back into space for you and Clay, promise!
Does that mean you have lots of evidence to prove my innocence?
Oh, you see? About that, I have an attorney's badge and an autopsy report. We didn't get to investigate the area as much as I'd like, thanks to the police.
I'm done for. I'm a goner. Everybody thinks I did it. Thought I was gonna soar like a comet, but I'm just gonna crash like a meteorite.
No, don't say that, Mr. Starbuck.
Don't count yourself out yet.
I know it's hard to lose a teammate, but you've got to keep going.
And what about you, Apollo?
What about me?
I was just thinking, wasn't Clay your best friend?
We need to focus on the trial right now. Are you all ready to go? Look, Athena, it's sad, yes, but I'm used to it at this point. Frankly, working for Mr. Wright has trained me for a lifetime of disappointment. Even though I lost my best friend, the only positive influence in my life, now all I'm left with is you and Mr. Wright and Trucy. Oh God, what has my life become?
Apollo, it's gonna be okay.
Don't touch me! He's gonna throw another police officer at me!
Apollo.
The trial is about to begin. If the defense would please proceed to the courtroom.
Okay, here we go.
This is it! This is one trial I can't afford to lose! For Clay's sake and for our clients, I will find Clay's killer!
December 16th, 9:55 a.m. District Court, courtroom number 4.
Court is now in session for the trial of Solomon Starbuck. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Excuse me, Mr. Justice? Yes, Your Honor? What happened to your eye? We don't talk about it! I'm fine! The defense is ready, Your Honor! Are you sure I don't? I'm fine, Your Honor! The defense is ready!
I'm sorry, Your Honor. He's been like this since yesterday. He keeps insisting it's just a sty.
Because it is a sty, Athena! I was cleaning the toilet, and when I had my head inside it, Trucy decided to play a trick on me. She felt that it would be funny to flush the toilet, so she flushed the toilet. She gave me a swirly. Some dirty toilet water got in my eye, and now I have a sty. I went to Mr. Wright saying, "Hey, Mr. Wright, can I go to the hospital?" But then he just laughed at me and said, "Apollo, Apollo, you know we don't have health insurance." And then he offered me our health insurance plan, an orange peel from his trash can. He said, "Take the orange peel, Apollo. Eat the orange peel. It's got vitamins." And I said, "I don't need vitamins, Mr. Wright. I need medicine." And then he proceeded to take some leftover broth from El Dunes and throw it in my face. And then he said it was like a salt tablet. I suppose it's something he doesn't want to discuss. Maybe he's entering a touchy age. I'm in my mid-20s! Oh my gosh, really, Mr. Justice? I mean, I thought that you were just an exhausted child. Very well, and the prosecution? The prosecution appears to be ready as well.
Silence.
Not yet. I'm not quite ready yet. Ah!
Oh!
No! Listen here, Justice Dono. You think that you can out-edge me in my courtroom? Well, in that case, you're sorely mistaken. Look at me, Justice Dono. I have a three-piece suit. I have my white streak in my hair, I have the bags under my eyes from crying non-stop and not wiping the tears, and I have a hook. You are outclassed. Well, it didn't take him long this time.
What's up with Blackwell? No, then. I shall give the opening statement.
Silence.
I'll do it.
You will? What an unexpected surprise.
This time, I can't leave it to anyone else.
I see. Something is off with the two of you today. It's like you're trying to compete against each other to see who's the edgiest. You both seem different somehow. Very well, Prosecutor Blackwell. Your opening statement, if you would.
It was just yesterday. The crimes in question occurred at the Cosmos Space Center.
Oh, that famous federal research facility of all things related to astrology, huh? Right?
Astronomy, it's astronomy. Anyways, a rocket was set to launch from there. But at 9:28 a.m., before they could even move the rocket to the launch site, two explosive devices were detonated, and the launch was cancelled.
My word, 2 bombs? How dreadful!
The defendant in today's trial is charged with both the bombing and with murder. One Mr. Solomon Starbuck. For whatever inane reason, he detonated a bomb on the rocket he himself would be in.
Solomon Starbuck? I recognize that name. Isn't he that famous astronaut?
Correct, your boldness. Mr. Starbuck was the pilot of the Hatch 1 rocket 7 years ago. As you may recall, despite some interstellar trouble, his mission was a success. Some say it was a miracle he returned alive. I suppose you could say he's a living legend.
Oh, I remember now. He's become something of an international celebrity, right? They even turned that incident into a movie and everything. We've got a real space pioneer in court today.
But even heroes tumble from their lofty heights. Returning to the subject at hand.
Ah, yes. The victim was one Mr. Clay Turan, a subordinate of the defendant.
Indeed, a loyal disciple brutally stabbed stabbed to death by his mentor.
Stabbed to death, you say? You mean his death was a result of the bombing?
No, it was the result of being associated with justice, Dono. It is the curse of justice.
Oh, I am not cursed! I may have some bad luck, but I am not cursed!
Open your eyes, Justice Dono. Everyone you associate with or will associate ends up suffering. First, your boss gets convicted during your first trial. And now this. Correct, despite his lofty dreams, the victim was seen as an interloper by the defendant. And so he was sent not into space, but to the universe which we mortals cannot see.
Clay! I think I've heard enough. The case seems pretty clear-cut at this point. However, there is one thing I'm curious about. That metal box next to the witness stand. Hello, Candace Orbs!
Oh my gosh.
What purpose does it serve exactly?
You see, it is for dramatic irony. I don't know what, but according to my notes, apparently the player is supposed to feel a little unsettled by this case's presence. Please ignore the overwhelming smell of blood coming from within. Since you asked so nicely, it's your coffin.
Ah! Have mercy on me!
Just kidding, we already have a dead body in there. I jest, it's evidence. Due to its immense size, we have little choice but to lay it where it rests now. We shall get to the contents of the box in due time.
Phew! I feel like I just lost 50 years off my life.
Does he even have 50 years left?
Inner monologue, Athena! Inner monologue! Oh, I heard that! Double penalty! Unlimited penalty!
Enough jabbering!
Bobby Fulbright's the name, and justice we trust!
Ah, Detective Fulbright! Very well then, please explain the details of this incident to the court, if you would.
On it! First, take a look at this pamphlet from the Cosmos Space Center. In it, you will find a diagram outlining the overall layout of the Space Center. Oh, here we are! For a moment, for a more detailed look at what's on the left side of this building, take a look at this cross-section that we, the police, have created. See the launch pad in the main building?
The launch pad is the square building, and the rounded structure is the main building, right?
You got it. The incident took place in Launchpad 1 and in the main building's lounge. I'll be using this diagram during my testimony. It'll make things easier to understand. Details of the case. Just before the rocket was set to launch, 2 bombs went off. Boom! Boom! One on the second floor of the Space Center's main building and one in Launchpad 1. Thankfully, only the 2 astronauts were in Launchpad 1 at the time. The 2 of them managed to make it back as far as the boarding lounge. But after the escape, one of the 2 was found stabbed to death.
A murder on top of bombing. Detective, the victim was already dead by the time you arrived at the lounge, correct?
Yep, thinking he'd sabotaged the bombing, the defendant killed him right there in the rocket. Just look at this tragic photo!
Oh my! Is that a knife in the victim's chest?
Yes, Your Honor, it's the knife that cruelly ended this young man's dreams. We couldn't get any prints off it, though, because the defendant was in his spacesuit.
By the way, Detective Fulbright, why are the victim's helmet and right glove absent in this photograph?
We had to remove them to identify him, Your Honor. I personally removed his glove during the investigation. We had to get his fingerprints to confirm his identity, after all.
Yes, it would be very difficult to identify him without a face or fingerprints. Now, there's just one more thing I'd like to inquire about. What is this round thing next to the victim in this photo?
Something so important to the victim, he took it with him as he escaped the launch pad. A capsule that apparently contains asteroid samples. While obviously valuable for research purposes, it has no relation to this case.
I see. So, we know that the bomb in the main building was on the second floor. But where was the bomb that was in Launchpad 1 located?
Heh, that one was on the rocket itself. It was situated around the central part of the rocket. Apparently, the area around the launch pad's elevator was a sea of flames. I would like to submit this diagram according to the record. The trials just started and we're already in a bind.
You get used to it. Besides, that's what cross-examination's for, right? What the 2 astronauts were doing during the bombing. That'll be the key.
Anyways, this is one of those cross-examinations where you basically just have to prize everything. It's all that they made Edgy Apollo cross-examination sprite. They just made... It's like they're trying to have just a dueling banjos of edginess between Apollo and Simon.
In order to defeat the Edgelord, I've got to become the Edgelord!
Hold it! You cannot handle the ways of the Edgelord, Justice Dono.
How powerful were the explosions?
Well, the one in the main building wasn't strong enough to bring the place down. But the room it went off in was burned black. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. Due in large part, of course, to me stepping up to lead the evacuation.
Wait, what were you doing there in the first place, Detective Fulbright?
I'm Bobby Fulbright, hero of justice. I'll be there wherever and whenever people need my help. I'd go to the other side of the world, or even the edge of the universe.
I'm not sure he knows how far that actually is, but I guess I'll leave that one alone.
Admirable decision, Justice Dono.
Huh? Oh, what did he decide?
Anyways, could you describe what it was like at the spacer at the time?
The bombing cut the power to the central bank of elevators and the 3rd floor lounge. It was pitch black in there, I tell you. However, the security cameras and whatnot were running on emergency backup.
And how did the evacuation go?
I immediately and heroically whisked people down the Space Center's basement shelter.
The basement shelter?
Yes, there's an emergency shelter beneath the Space Center. An emergency shelter, huh? Oh, here it is. It's at the bottom of the diagram. The Space Center is pretty impressive to have its own shelter.
The power outage and evacuation seem unrelated to the murder at this point. I guess I'll leave that aside for now. So there were 2 explosions in total, correct?
Yep, that's right. Okay.
Hold it!
Let me get this straight. Mr. Starbuck rigged a rocket he was going to board with explosives.
Huh? What are you talking about?
If the defendant really did plant the bomb on his own rocket, he could cause the explosion as well. Oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Fine! A simpleton for a simpleton. Fulbright, the motive.
Understood. The defendant actually had astrophobia.
Astrophobia? What's that?
A fear of space, naturally. Just the thought of space can cause the afflicted to freeze up. And so, in his terror, the defendant found a way to stop the launch at the last minute.
That's absurd!
Unfortunately for you, we have evidence. Take a look at these!
I'm not taking it up to the honey click to examine for you! I'm not doing that again! It was bad enough when Mr. Wright just had me be his drug mule during Turnabout Reclaim, but I'm not doing that here! Where are they?
These anti-anxiety tablets were found among the defendant's possessions. Apparently, he was taking them in secret to quell his fears.
There were a multitude of problems with the rocket Mr. Starbuck rode 7 years ago. Rumor has it, it threatened to crash a number of times as well. That was, of course, very traumatic for Mr. Starbuck.
Objection! I didn't cause it, if you're curious! Why would I have caused it?
I don't know, Justice Dono. Why does everything you touch turn to crap?
But that doesn't mean he'd go so far as to blow up his own ship.
Silence. The defendant couldn't bear to mar his good name, now could he? No, not after the media had branded him Saul Starbuck, space pioneer extraordinaire. Just they create this badass poster of him, create a documentary. Given these conditions, the defendant could hardly run away like some base mutts.
What, so that's why you think he resorted to the bombing?
Naturally, he constructed this act of sabotage in an attempt to blow up the space center. which would effectively abort the launch, but spare his reputation.
Oh! Now I'm sure you understand why we have to bring justice down on this atrocious criminal!
Hold it! Are you sure it was only the two of them?
It was just before the spaceship was set to launch, so of course it was only those two.
Oh! Well, there could have been somebody else inside that rocket.
Silence.
The notion of a third party in Launchpad 1 is utterly absurd. Just to enter the area from the lounge, one must pass through a door guarded by a fingerprint recognition device. And allow me to state up front that there were precious few with the clearance to do so.
A fingerprint recognition device? It sounds as futuristic and complex as a space center.
Actually, it's not as amazing as you think, Your Honor. Take a look at this photo. This is the door in the lounge with the fingerprint lock. Only personnel whose fingerprints are registered can pass through.
I see. That is very different from what I had in mind. And is there a record of the number of people that passed through that door yesterday?
Yes, there were only 3. The defendant, the victim, and... the director to the Space Center, Yuri Cosmos.
Then does that mean it's possible that the director is the one who did it?
Not a chance. He was in the main building when the bomb exploded at 9:28, doing his job directing the launch. Besides having an alibi, he had no motive for committing these senseless acts.
He has a point. I guess that the director can't be considered a suspect then.
Okay, next one.
Hold it.
So, well, it would appear that the pair barely escaped with their lives. In actuality, one of them had already been murdered inside the rocket. That's the angle the prosecution wants to push, correct?
You got it. In fact, that's what I've been trying to say this whole time. If the victim had been alive, he would have been for sure tried to stop the bombing.
Is there any chance Mr. Turan could have been killed before he boarded the rocket?
They were both alive and well at boarding time and embarked under their own power. Their hearts full of hope and dreams of space.
Hey, for all we know, Clay could have been weakened at Bernied! And then both of their hopes and dreams were dashed.
If I may continue my explanation, after the evacuation order was given, the defendant made his escape, carrying the victim to make it look like a rescue.
Hold it.
And who was the first to find the victim?
Actually, there were 2 of them.
The Space Center director, Yuri Cosmos, and Detective Candace Arm.
One of them was a detective?
Yep, Detective Arm specializes in bombings, you see. She and the director were ordering the evacuation following the explosions. They were also worried about the astronauts, so they hurried over to the boarding lounge. That's when they discovered the victim along with the defendant.
2 witnesses, huh? And one of them is a detective. I doubt either one would have anything to say that would help me. I think that pretty much covers the details of this case. Only the victim and the defendant were on the launch pad when the former was killed. If this is the truth, then only Mr. Starbuck could have carried out this crime. What little I could get out of him only hurt my case.
Justice Dono, foolish is the warrior who rushes headlong into battle. Preparation is an essential element of battle, so I advise you to gander at this.
What is it?
Footage from a security camera. As the 2 astronauts emerge from the bowels of the Launchpad 1 corridor, the boarding lounge security camera captured their desperate escape. Now, I would direct your attention to what the defendant is shouldering, which you can see is none other than the lifeless body of the victim.
What? Order, I say! This lines up exactly with what the prosecution has been asserting. I should have known Blackpool would have something like this ready.
Apollo? How exactly did they determine that Clay was already gone in that footage? Well, we'll answer that in the next episode, because I think that now would be a good time to end things off. Anyways, I really appreciate that you stuck around to watch this episode. You're a great viewer, and I hope you come back for the next one. If you like this video, like, subscribe, comment, share, do whatever you want. With that, I'll see you next time. Bye.